My daughter-in-law dumped me at a nursing home and stole my house keys. I sat on the stairs, holding my only pillow. When I saw a shivering veteran, I gave him my scarf. 2 hours later, 10 police cars surrounded the nursing home. The veteran stepped out in uniform and pointed straight at me. What he did next, I'm glad to have you here. Follow my story until the end and comment the city you're watching from, so I can see how far my story has reached. My name is Marcia, and I'm 71 years old. 3 weeks ago, I thought I had a family. Today, I'm sitting on concrete steps outside Sunset Manor Nursing Home, clutching the only pillow I was allowed to bring, watching my daughter-in-law drive away in my own car. The February wind cuts through my thin sweater like ice. I should be inside where it's warm, but the smell in there makes my stomach turn. Cheap disinfectant mixed with something sour that I don't want to identify. The fluorescent lights buzz constantly, giving everything a sickly yellow tint that makes everyone look like they're already dead. Mrs. Henderson, you need to come inside now. The aide's voice is impatient. She's maybe 25, with tired eyes and the kind of forced smile that doesn't reach past her lips. Her name tag says Jessica, but she's introduced herself to me 4 times already, each time like we've never met. Just a few more minutes, I tell her, my voice barely above a whisper. She sighs and checks her watch. Fine, but dinner's at 5:30, and if you miss it, the kitchen closes. I nod, though I have no appetite. How could I eat when my whole world just crumbled in the span of 2 hours? It started this morning when Brielle came to see me at home. My home. The house where I raised Peter, where I plan to live out my remaining years surrounded by memories of my late husband Robert and the life we built together. Brielle had this look on her face that I'd seen before, the same expression she wore when she convinced Peter to skip Christmas at my house last year, because they had other plans. Marcia, we need to talk, she said, not even accepting the cup of coffee I offered. She was dressed in her usual expensive clothes, a designer coat that probably cost more than my monthly pension of $1,200, and those boots that click against the hardwood floors like a countdown timer. Is it about Peter? How is he? My son had been in a coma for 3 weeks after a car accident. The doctor said his brain swelling was going down, that there were good signs, but Brielle had been controlling who could visit. I'd only seen him twice. That's what I want to discuss. She sat down at my kitchen table, the same table where I used to help Peter with his homework, where we celebrated his high school graduation, where Robert and I shared our last breakfast together before the cancer took him. The doctors think Peter's recovery is going to take a long time, months, maybe longer. My heart clenched. But he's getting better, right? You said yesterday that he moved his fingers. Brielle's expression didn't change, cold, clinical. Marcia, you're 71 years old. You can't take care of yourself anymore, let alone help with Peter's recovery when he wakes up. What are you talking about? I take care of myself just fine. I cook, I clean, I drive. You burned dinner last Tuesday. You forgot to pay the electric bill. Yesterday you called me 3 times asking the same question. Her voice was patient in the way you talk to a child having a tantrum. I felt heat rise to my cheeks. I was worried about my son. Of course I called. And I didn't burn dinner. I just let it cook a little longer than usual. The smoke detector went off, Marcia. Mrs. Patterson next door had to come check on you. That was true, but it wasn't because I was losing my mind. It was because I was distracted, terrified that I might lose the only family I had left. But trying to explain that to Brielle was like trying to explain color to someone who'd been blind their whole life. I've made arrangements, she continued, pulling out a folder from her purse. Sunset Manor has an opening. It's a nice place, very clean, with activities and medical staff available around the clock. The words hit me like a physical blow. You want to put me in a nursing home? It's what's best for everyone. You'll have people to take care of you, and I can focus on Peter's recovery without worrying about you. But this is my house. Peter grew up here. This is where I belong. Brielle's mask slipped for just a moment, and I saw something ugly underneath. Impatience. Annoyance. Like I was an inconvenient problem she needed to solve. Peter signed the papers before his accident. He was already concerned about you living alone. That's not true. Peter would never. Here's his signature. She slid a document across the table. There it was, in my son's handwriting. Peter Henderson. But something about it looked wrong. Rushed. Not like Peter's usual careful penmanship. I don't understand. Why didn't he talk to me about this? Because he knew you'd react exactly like this. Look, Marcia, this doesn't have to be permanent. Once Peter's better and we get settled, maybe we can look at other arrangements. The hope in those words was worse than outright cruelty. She was giving me just enough to make me cooperate, a carrot dangled in front of a donkey. 2 hours later, I was in Brielle's car with a single suitcase and my pillow. She'd packed for me while I sat in shock at the kitchen table, choosing what she thought I'd need. She left behind my photo albums, my recipe books, the quilt my mother made for my wedding. They don't have room for all this, she said when I protested. We'll bring more later. But I knew there wouldn't be a later. Not the way she meant it. The ride to Sunset Manor was silent, except for the radio playing some generic pop song about love and happiness. Brielle drummed her fingers on the steering wheel, checking her watch every few minutes like she had somewhere more important to be. When we pulled up to the building, my heart sank. It wasn't the nice place she'd described. The paint was peeling, the parking lot was full of potholes, and the sign out front was missing half its letters. The smell hit me the moment she opened the car door. That institutional smell that clings to your clothes and follows you home. Here we are, Brielle said with false cheer. Your new home. The check-in process was a blur of paperwork and condescending smiles. The administrator, a thin woman with gray hair pulled back in a severe bun, spoke about me like I wasn't standing right there. Mrs. Henderson has mild cognitive decline, Brielle explained, though I'd never been diagnosed with anything of the sort. She gets confused easily and can't live independently anymore. I wanted to scream, to tell them she was lying, but the words stuck in my throat. Who would believe me over Brielle, with her expensive clothes and confident voice? My room was on the second floor, barely larger than a closet. It had a narrow bed, a small dresser, and one window that looked out onto the parking lot. The previous occupant had left behind a water stain on the ceiling that looked like a map of some foreign country I'd never visit. I'll come check on you soon, Brielle said, though we both knew it was a lie. She handed me my house keys, and for a moment, I thought she was giving them back to me. Instead, she plucked them from my palm. I'll need these to take care of the house while you're here. And then she was gone, leaving me alone in a place that smelled like sadness and forgotten dreams. That's how I ended up on these steps, watching the sunset over a parking lot full of rusty cars and broken promises. The temperature is dropping, and I should go inside, but I can't bring myself to move. This morning I was Marcia Henderson, homeowner, mother, woman with a life and a history. Now I'm just another old lady warehoused away when I became inconvenient. A movement across the parking lot catches my eye. There's a man sitting on a bus bench, wearing an old military jacket and boots that have seen better days. He looks like he's been there for hours, just watching the building. Our eyes meet for a moment, and something passes between us. Recognition, maybe, or just the shared understanding of what it feels like to be forgotten. The wind picks up again, and I see him shiver. Without thinking, I unwrap the blue scarf from around my neck, the one Robert gave me for our 40th wedding anniversary, and walk over to him. You look cold, I say, holding out the scarf. He looks up at me with eyes that have seen too much, eyes that remind me of Peter when he was little and trying not to cry. Ma'am, I can't take that. It's yours. I insist. We all need a little warmth sometimes. He takes the scarf with hands that shake slightly, either from cold or something deeper. Thank you, ma'am. That's very kind of you. You're welcome. I start to walk back to the building, then pause. Are you waiting for someone? He wraps my scarf around his neck, and for the first time, I see him smile. It transforms his whole face, makes him look younger somehow. Yes, ma'am. I think I am. There's something about the way he says it that makes me look back one more time as I climb the steps. He's still watching me, and there's an intensity in his gaze that I can't quite understand, like he knows something I don't. As I reach for the door handle, I hear footsteps behind me. The veteran is standing at the bottom of the steps now, his hands in his pockets, my scarf a bright splash of color against his weathered jacket. "Mrs. Henderson," he calls out, and my blood turns cold. I never told him my name. I freeze on the steps, my hand gripping the cold metal railing so tightly my knuckles go white. The veteran knows my name. I never introduced myself, never mentioned it during our brief conversation. Yet he called me Mrs. Henderson like we were old friends. "How do you—" I start to ask, but he's already walking away, disappearing into the shadows between the streetlights. I stand there for several minutes, my heart hammering against my ribs, before Jessica the aide opens the door behind me. "There you are." I was starting to worry. Her tone suggests she wasn't worried at all. "Come on, let's get you settled in for the night." I follow her inside, but I keep glancing back toward the parking lot. The bus bench is empty now, as if the whole encounter was just a figment of my imagination. But the absence of my scarf around my neck tells me it was real. That first night at Sunset Manor passes in a haze of unfamiliar sounds and smells. The walls are thin, so I hear everything. Mrs. Chen in the next room crying for her daughter who never comes, the night aide's heavy footsteps in the hallway, the constant buzz of fluorescent lights that never fully turn off. I lie on the narrow bed that smells like industrial detergent, staring at the water stain on the ceiling, and wonder how my life became this small. The next morning brings no relief. Breakfast is served at 7 sharp in a dining room that echoes with the sounds of wheelchairs and walkers scraping against linoleum. The eggs are powdered, the coffee tastes like it was made yesterday, and the woman across from me keeps trying to feed her scrambled eggs to a stuffed animal she calls Harold. "You're the new one," says the woman to my left. Her name tag reads Resident Dorothy, and her white hair is perfectly styled despite the early hour. "What did you do wrong?" "Excuse me? What did you do to end up here?" Nobody comes to Sunset Manor because they want to. There's always a story. Dorothy takes a sip of orange juice and makes a face. "Powdered like everything else here. I'm here because my grandson decided my house was worth more than my happiness. You?" I consider lying, making up some story about choosing this place, but Dorothy's directness cuts through my defenses. "My daughter-in-law thinks I can't take care of myself anymore. And can you?" "I've been taking care of myself for 71 years. Dorothy nods approvingly. "That's what I like to hear. Most people here have given up fighting. Me? I call my grandson every day and remind him exactly what kind of man he's become. I wish I had Dorothy's courage. Instead, I poke at my eggs and try not to think about my real kitchen, where I used to make fresh coffee and read the newspaper at the table by the window. The day stretches endlessly. There's craft time, where we're given safety scissors and construction paper like kindergartners. There's exercise hour, which consists of sitting in chairs and moving our arms in slow circles. There's socialization time, where a cheerful volunteer reads to us from a romance novel with a shirtless man on the cover. Through it all, I find myself looking out the windows, searching for any sign of the veteran from yesterday. But the bus bench remains empty. It's not until Thursday that Brielle comes to visit. I hear her heels clicking down the hallway before I see her, that distinctive sharp sound that always reminded me of a countdown timer. When she appears in my doorway, she's carrying a small bouquet of flowers from the grocery store, the kind that costs $5 and comes in plastic wrap. "Hi, Marcia. How are you settling in?" She sets the flowers on my dresser without looking for a vase. There isn't one. "I want to go home," I tell her, not bothering with pleasantries. "Now, Marcia, you've only been here a few days. Give it a chance. She sits on the edge of my bed, careful not to wrinkle her skirt. I brought you some of your things. She hands me a small bag containing 3 photos, one of Peter as a baby, one of Robert and me on our wedding day, and one of the 3 of us at Peter's college graduation. Missing are the dozens of other photos that chronicle our lives together, the ones that tell the real story of who we were. Where are the rest of my pictures? My photo albums? Marcia, you don't need all that clutter. These are the important ones. She glances around the room with barely concealed distaste. Besides, there's no room for everything here. Oh, what about my things at the house? My furniture? I'm taking care of everything. Don't worry about it. Her voice has that edge to it that I've learned to recognize. The conversation is over. Can I see Peter? Is he awake yet? Something flickers across Brielle's face. Guilt, maybe, or annoyance. He's still unconscious, but the doctors are hopeful. When he wakes up, he's going to need all my attention to recover. That's why it's good that you're here, being taken care of. She stays for exactly 15 minutes, checking her phone twice and looking at her watch once. Before she leaves, she delivers the blow that cuts deepest. Oh, I almost forgot. I had to sell some of your furniture to help with expenses. The medical bills are piling up and Peter's insurance doesn't cover everything. She says it casually, like she's discussing the weather. I got $15,000 for the dining room set and your bedroom furniture. That old stuff was worth more than I thought. My throat goes dry. You sold my furniture? The dining room set Robert and I bought for our first anniversary? Marcia, it's just stuff. Peter's medical care is more important than old furniture. She stands up, smoothing her skirt. I have to go. I'm meeting with Peter's doctors this afternoon. After she leaves, I sit on my narrow bed and stare at the 3 photos she brought me. The dining room set she sold was where we ate every family meal for 45 years. The bedroom furniture was where Robert and I spent our last nights together before cancer took him. To Brielle, they were just old stuff to be converted into cash. That afternoon, during outdoor time, a supervised 20 minutes in a small courtyard surrounded by chain-link fence, I see him again. The veteran is sitting on the same bus bench, wearing my blue scarf despite the warmer weather. This time, he's not alone. A woman in a business suit is talking to him, showing him something on a clipboard. Who is that man? I ask Jessica, who's standing nearby scrolling through her phone. She barely glances up. What man? The one on the bus bench, with the scarf. Jessica looks toward the parking lot and frowns. I don't see anyone. But he's right there, clear as day. The woman in the suit shakes his hand and walks away, and he turns to look directly at me. Even from this distance, I can see him nod slightly, like he's acknowledging something I don't understand. That night, I can't sleep. The encounter with Brielle keeps playing in my mind, along with her casual mention of selling my furniture. $15,000. Money that should have gone to help with my care, not disappeared into whatever financial black hole Brielle seems to be throwing it into. I get up and walk to the small window that looks out over the parking lot. It's past midnight, but there he is again. The veteran, sitting on the bench under the streetlight, wearing my scarf. He's not moving, just sitting there like he's keeping watch. Without really thinking about it, I put on my robe and slippers and make my way downstairs. The night aide is dozing at the front desk, and the doors aren't locked. Apparently, they don't expect residents to try to escape in the middle of the night. The cool air hits my face as I step outside, and I realize how long it's been since I've felt truly fresh air. Not the recycled, disinfectant-scented air of Sunset Manor, but real air that carries the smell of grass and distant rain. The veteran looks up as I approach, as if he's been expecting me. Couldn't sleep either? He asks, his voice gentle in the darkness. Too many thoughts, I admit, sitting down on the other end of the bench. Up close, I can see that my scarf is carefully folded and clean, like he's been taking care of it. You don't have to keep that, you know, the scarf. I'd like to hold on to it a little longer if you don't mind. It reminds me of something. What? He's quiet for a long moment, studying my face in the streetlight. Kindness. Real kindness is rarer than people think. We sit in comfortable silence, two forgotten people in the middle of the night. Finally, he speaks again. Your son is lucky to have you. My breath catches. How do you know about my son? People talk. Word gets around. He adjusts the scarf around his neck. Peter, right? The car accident? I nod, unable to speak around the sudden tightness in my throat. He's going to be okay, the veteran says with quiet confidence. And when he wakes up, he's going to have questions about where you are. His wife says he signed papers to put me here. The veteran's expression hardens slightly. Did he, though? Before I can ask what he means, the sound of footsteps approaches from behind us. It's the night aide, looking annoyed and sleepy. Mrs. Henderson, you can't be out here in your pajamas. Come back inside before you catch pneumonia. I stand up reluctantly, but the veteran catches my arm gently. Everything's going to change soon, he says quietly, so only I can hear. Trust me. As I'm led back inside, I turn to look at him one more time. He's still sitting there under the streetlight, my blue scarf bright against the darkness, watching Sunset Manor like a sentinel. I don't know who he is or how he knows about my family, but something about his presence makes me feel less alone. For the first time since Brielle abandoned me here, I have the strange sensation that someone is looking out for me. I just have no idea how much that's going to matter in the days to come. Friday morning changes everything. I'm in the dining room picking at another breakfast of powdered eggs when Jessica approaches my table, her usual bored expression replaced by something that looks almost like excitement. Mrs. Henderson, you have a visitor. He's waiting in the family meeting room. My heart leaps. Peter? Is Peter awake? No, ma'am, it's someone else. He says he's a friend of the family. I follow Jessica down a hallway I've never seen before, past offices with closed doors, and the administrator's room where I can hear her arguing with someone on the phone about unpaid invoices. The family meeting room is small and windowless, with institutional gray walls and chairs that look like they came from a church basement sale. The man waiting for me isn't the veteran from the bus bench. This is someone else entirely. Tall, clean-shaven, wearing a crisp white shirt and dark slacks. He has silver hair and kind eyes, and when he stands to greet me, there's something authoritative about his posture that commands respect. Mrs. Henderson, thank you for seeing me. My name is James Morrison. He extends his hand, and his grip is firm and warm. I apologize for the unusual circumstances, but I needed to speak with you privately. I don't understand. How do you know me? Are you from the hospital? Is this about Peter? Please, sit down. He waits until I'm seated before taking the chair across from me. Mrs. Henderson, I need to be completely honest with you about why I'm here. I'm a retired military investigator, and for the past month, I've been conducting an informal investigation into this facility. My brain struggles to process his words. Investigation? What kind of investigation? Sunset Manor has been the subject of several complaints filed with the state health department. Allegations of neglect, financial exploitation of residents, falsified medical records. I was asked to look into these claims by some concerned family members whose loved ones had difficulties here. The room suddenly feels smaller, the walls pressing in. Are you saying this place is... Let's just say it's not operating according to the standards it should be. Morrison's voice is gentle but serious. Mrs. Henderson, I need to ask you something, and I want you to think carefully before you answer. Did you choose to come here? The question hits me like a physical blow. No, my daughter-in-law. She said it was necessary, that I couldn't take care of myself anymore. And do you believe that's true? I was taking care of myself just fine until 3 days ago. The words come out stronger than I intended.